3, 2, 1, go. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is get set up for this ice cave trip. I wish there was a better place. In terms of the encounter cycle for going in here for these eye fights, it's not that bad if you've got a travel spell, because then you can kind of exit the ice cave whenever you want. But since we have not class changed, and we are not planning to class change, we do not have warp, we do not have exit, we've got to walk all the way out of this ice cave at the end, which puts every single one of those levels that we have so preciously worked at risk. And so as a result, it is a very tense experience. It also means that you can't really leave early. Like if you only need 50 eyes to get the levels that you want, too bad. There might not be a nice little exit spot. So it'd be really cool if at some point we figured out a neat strategy for the start of the ice cave where you can get a little bit more of a flexible journey in here. No matter what, maybe one day we will have the technology to do. Can you not grab my class changing? The Red Wizard doesn't really miss out on any noticeable gear. The biggest thing you're missing out is on travel spells. Those are kind of important. Things like the Power Glove do not work, so you're not definitely even thinking about those. Should you unclench Lavacan, I would recommend that if you can maintain a clench for at least the next 6 hours, that would probably be advisable. There are differences in attack spells for Red Wizard, so you are losing Lit 3 and Ice 3, which are pretty good spells, especially if you're getting them right about now or so. But the thing is, by the end of the game, their value is going to go down a fair bit. Yeah, they're still okay, but they're not going to help you beat Chaos in any appreciable way. So I don't think that they're as big of a loss as, for example, what you miss out on from not having a travel spell. Because that gets you the Mazmune without having to do the full Temple of Fiends in one go, which is really nice. Mana past their Fur Giants, no problem. We've got one battle to stay down here so that we don't get more Cockatrice Mummies. I'd rather have a Wraith fight than Cockatrice Mummies, because Wraith, if you get hit, is going to be paralysis, whereas Cockatrice, if you get hit, is going to be death. Both should be very uncommon, like we're talking about 3 in 2d6 chances for a lot of this stuff. But just in terms of the consequences, it's a little bit less good. Unlike the Arbones, who are nothing but the best. Take one more Arbone fight here. That gets rid of mages on the middle floor. Mages shouldn't even really be that big of a threat once you've got the ribbon and plenty of hit points, but if they all start using spells at you, it can get a little bit dicey just for the characters that don't have a ton of HP. So you see, our battles with the eye began. And hopefully, now they very quickly end. Alright, having to do it in 2 shots is kind of concerning. That means a lot of chances at bracket. If it's only 3 in 2d6, it's going to add up. So I would love to have Dan be able to one-shot these things. Problem is, we've got the best sword in the game, which is the Sun Sword, and it's not getting any better for the foreseeable future. So you would need to have accuracy to get your attacks up. Those glances, those bracks, they're very scary here still. But the experience, it's so very, very good. X666 is free. That one is not a problem because when you are looking at how it works, if you have either more than 300 health or you have death resistance, it will never work. There's no random element involved in it. A lot of this. If we are willing to take one mage fight, which is probably not the end of the world, I bet we could leave early if we want to have like a little checkpoint. It's a bit of a setup just to get into the ice cave and getting ready for this. It depends on how comfortable you are at rolling the dice over and over again on the Braxton glances. Because the experience is really good. It's an ag and a third per kill. Even at the worst of it, you're looking at around 10 eyes per level up. So the levels go very quickly. So far it's going well. It's possible I would also like to maybe get some type of RNG loop going for some of these. That way you'd know at least for that particular level up, you would be totally safe from any of the spell effects. The way the RNG loops work is that if you have some consistent number of random numbers, that is a multiple of 256 getting used up, then you know that you're going to get the same results repeated over and over again. As long as you have zero variance in terms of how your hit's going to be. Like if this is going to be 84 damage, we might have a loop here going with 114 and 84. Looks pretty promising, but the problem is when we get a level up. At that point, it's going to need to roll some extra random numbers to do the stat gains. You've got guaranteed stats for each level up, depending on your character class. And any stat that's not guaranteed has a 25% chance of going up. That's where the random number comes in. Or if you have a strong HP gain. That is also going to need a random number to determine how much HP that you get. So unfortunately, you can't keep permanently locked in on these, but it works as long as you're not going up to that level. So I know I'm going to be entirely safe up to level 26 here, which is nice. And there's level 26, so our nice point is over. Now we gotta sweat again. Alright, ineffective glance. We got a 148 here, which is our best roll yet. XXXX and 96. We'll see if we get that pattern again at some point. Having an encounter off at the side would also break that pattern. Alright, so XXX at the start, we know this is gonna be at least different. 189 one-shot, that's really good. We can get a consistent one-shot on one of these. It also is a lot fewer rounds being spent, which is a nice bonus. Alright, it's a new one. Dan's going first. 163, a one-shot. This scary is a solo black mage because of XXX. Because you can get the pro ring pretty easily, I would not be really all that worried for any of the character classes. It is a bigger problem from the elemental attacks, because they have that 3 in 56 chance versus anything else the eye can do. So far I have not seen any patterns repeating here. See if that 102.96 was what we started with. So we might have looped all the way back to the beginning. I think we did. I believe that was the starting one, so we might be in a cycle here for level 26 getting done. Again, great when you see it, but it's not going to last long enough to really make a difference. Yeah, so we had the one shot there, 163 after the 189 critical hit, so we're going to be good to our level up. So I hold down the A button. You don't have to hold it down continuously, you just need to be making sure it's pressed on the very first frame when you'd have an input. Every other frame, the game will throw away a random number. So even if you are doing nothing in battle. Random numbers are still getting generated at a fairly fast rate. And that's a big thing that when people do the manipulated runs have to contend with, is that there's such a small window of possibility that you can't easily time these. So you have to have setups where you can guarantee it's going to be an exact number of frames for doing an action. And yeah, the only thing that matters is in-battle RNG. So it looks like we're getting very similar to that previous cycle. Our stats have not evidently changed appreciably enough that we can get noticeably different results. Which is probably going to be true for a lot of this. Like, you're going to have fairly consistent patterns for long periods of time, which may or may not be good depending on which stat gains we are getting from this. Like, you could have an RNG loop that, as a result of getting very consistent setups, gives you extremely poor stat gains. Like, maybe you just never get a strength point, or you never get a vitality point. It's one of the dangers of doing this type of a grind, where you have a long, continuous session, versus even if you're not trying to manipulate the level ups, just making it so that you've got a bunch of different variety scenarios. Les Pinevard, thank you very much for resubscribing back for 26 months. Thank you for the good wishes, and enjoy the adventures of Dan, the solo Red Mage. Vitality more important than strength? There's 4 stats that work. Intelligence does nothing at all, so clearly that one's pretty useless. Strength, every 2 points gives you a hard damage point, and this is a pretty small effect, but over the course of many levels, those can be decently nice. You need to have enough hard damage points that you can basically get past the enemy's base defense scores. Otherwise, you're going to just really struggle to do any real damage to the bosses at the end. But having a lot of strength is a very small boost over having a smaller gain. Vitality, that is going to pretty directly translate into hit points later on. Every 4 points of vitality gives you a extra hit point every single level up. Now, it rounds down, so you're going to not get like a fractional amount of it. So there's going to be certain points where it makes a bigger difference than others. But it is something that we kind of keep an eye on for these. All right, so I got strength and luck there. It feels like we're not getting a lot of extra stats with these loops, which could be a bit of a problem. I'm probably guaranteed 2 stats on most level ups. So if I'm only seeing 2 go up, that means like all of the random ones fail. Which is not super uncommon. Like, that's going to be true maybe about 40% of the time. But if we have an RNG loop, that's causing it to consistently happen. We've been missing out on a lot of stat gains over the course of the 10 levels or so that we're here. Every time I see the Brack or the glance, it's still just as terrifying. Don't remember 68 being there, but we're still 2 rounding, which is great. Parked Car, thank you very much for resubscribing back for 11 months. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend and enjoy our solo Red Mage. Yeah, Vitality has much bigger impact the earlier that you get it. I was talking about this yesterday, but if there is any point to optimize our level up gains, it's probably that first 10 to 20 levels that makes the biggest difference, because you're going to be getting the benefits of that Vitality throughout the entire adventure. And you also have a lot more guaranteed stat gains in those early levels. So if you want to get perfect level ups, it's much easier in the first couple levels where you're already getting a lot of them guaranteed. It's going to be harder in the later ones where you have, maybe like 1 guaranteed stat and then 4 that you have to roll. And I guess for those curious, the other stats that we have not talked about, agility and luck, are less directly useful. Agility is going to impact your ability to dodge attacks, which, again, very small but somewhat noticeable, especially before you have your evasion bonuses up. If you are looking at doing a bunch of white shirts or defense swords, the higher your starting agility, the fewer of those you might need in order to max out, and you'll be a little bit safer as well on your way to maxing out. And then agility plus luck combined affects some things for the ability to run away, for the ability to get first strikes. And those are even smaller effects. That would be kind of like the lowest priority ones to have. Devo1, welcome in. Why is it more likely the eye gets into an RNG loop than an Agama? Excellent question. Because the eye has a lot of single target moves. The Agama's got a physical attack, and then heat, which is multi-target. And the way that enemies work when you've got dead characters is they just pick a move. And then it figures out, is that move legal? If it's not, it has to reroll and use a bunch more random numbers. So if you've got a lot of dead characters, and the enemy has like 4 different moves that all are going to be having to target something, there's a pretty good chance it's going to have a lot of failed attempts, and so roll more numbers. And the more numbers you roll, the more likely it is you're going to get the loops. As Dan uses falling allies as pack mules, they are not falling. They are merely resting. I mean, we're definitely getting exactly the same loops on each of these levels. Which again makes me a little bit concerned that when we get the stat up gains at the end, we're going to have very similar results. So if we miss out on stat ups, the random ones, we might miss out on them very consistently. And as a result, have extremely bad stats by the end of the night. Which is definitely not good for a solo character. You don't have anybody to cut the overall attention of the enemies, so you have to be very, very prepared for whatever you can do. Hey there, a cat named Schrodinger, welcome in. And thank you guys for the good wishes. Where do all of these eyes come from? They come from the Eye Factory. Alright, strength, agility, intelligence. Is the best level up? Not really, but strength and agility together is pretty good. And vitality is starting to get a little bit lower priority-wise. But it will, as always, remain a little bit of a concern. Alright, taking 8 damage is new. I think every time we've had an eye physical attack, it's been 9 damage. And there is no stat gain that will cause you to take less damage in battle. So that is not something that, you know, as a result of getting some type of a defense point or something. So that has to be a new condition that we have not yet seen before. Which means the Brax are once again very scary. What level are we going to until we can grind no more? We need to max out our level for this game. It is, even at level 50, going to be quite difficult for the Red Mage to get through things. But since we've got a limited number of eyes that we can take in per each of these trips here, we're going to have to break this up into pieces. And my plan is to roughly do a chunk of eyes and then alternate with doing fiends. That way we get to flex our new muscles a bit. real question is going to be, when do we get an extra attack per round? I think if we had 4 attacks, we'd be maybe not consistently one-shotting the eye, but at least having a decent chance. Let's see, our current accuracy score is 95, so next level up we get an extra attack per round. That's going to totally throw off all of this RNG loop business as well. Taking that 4th hit is vastly going to change the fights. Red Mage gets a pretty small amount of accuracy per level. Means we don't really have a lot more prospects for future gains of this weapon. Masbean will be a different story because it'll have its own accuracy bonus that is going to affect when the level offsets are. But every single weapon in the game is going to have the same number of levels essentially in between the times you get bonus attacks. Just depends on what their base is for how much variability there is for the range. So there's level 31 picked up. Let's see how we do. All right, extra attack per round. It is... Ooh, that's looking pretty good. The one-shot's nice. 176 is going to be a pretty good amount of damage here. Probably nothing compared to any of the real fights that we'll have later on. Do I get cockatrices on the way out? No, I'm not worried about cockatrices. I'm worried about the eye doing glance and brack. Mages have rub. Fire 3 is kind of a big deal still here, just because we don't have that much HP. But I'd be much more worried about the instant kills than anything else. And those are the ones that you're most likely to see along the way here. Also, yes, it would be very nice if we could take saves. Like, that's what the remakes do, and you can save anywhere. You can do this grind even on your first trip in, because you don't have to worry about a game over causing you to lose a lot of progress. And so you can very much earlier in the adventure have way better levels. You get your money to the point where buying things is not a big deal. That's solving a lot of the cash crunch you have, because the eye is a really good fight for both experience and for gold, which is kind of a bit of a rare combination in a lot of these. We get bracked. Do we try again, or do we try virtual highlight? Both. I would be playing this. Well, you would have to watch virtual highlight for the next 6 hours. At least on the 61 critical again. That's one that we've seen before. It does make me a little bit nervous that we're still on potentially the bad amount of stat bonuses. That is a moderate concern. It'll be really nice if we got suddenly like a great stat gain on every single level up. I just don't think that's too probable. Yeah, the whole fact that bad level ups are a thing is somewhat vexing. It'd be kind of nice if we didn't have to deal with that. Alright, Dan's level 32. Strength, Vitality, Luck. Feels like at least one of those is probably not guaranteed. I mean, it might be a triple stat gain level, but you don't have a lot of those as you get further in. So we'll see if we get like another triple. I expect mostly singles and doubles around this point for character class guaranteed gains. Oh yeah, if we had a black belt, this would be a significantly easier challenge. It'd be much harder at the start. Like, a black belt is absolutely awful for such a long period of time. But then once they get good, not only are they good, they get really, really good. How many eyes do we kill per year? It is enough. I think we started at level 24, so this would be 8 level ups that we've gotten here up to this point. We've got probably at least another 2 or 3 that we can squeeze out before it starts to become necessary to leave. There's a bit of a window based on when the enemy encounters are coming up for how long you can stay here. That's part of the reason why if you've got travel spells, it is more flexible. And I could probably just kind of brute force it out. You know, if it's 1 or 2 mage fights, and especially if it's your last trip in where you're at such a high level that your magic defense score is really good, the enemies are starting to run away from you pretty consistently, it becomes a lot easier to just kind of hope that things work out for the best. Like sorcerers, really horrible fight. But if you're level 40, the odds of the sorcerer fight going badly is actually quite small. One of the reasons why it's seemingly such an overpowered monster, but not really that bad for a casual playthrough, is because when you see them again, you're probably leveled to the point where they're not going to be likely to land their touch attacks. Trance is not working as often. If they're running away, then it's even better. You don't have to really think about what they're going to do. Alright, a 4 stat gain. No vitality point, but definitely good to see there. Continue on. I think that means we've done a little bit more than 100 eyes. It goes really fast. Like, these are dangerous, but because they are more lucrative than the Agam. 1 1/3 Agamas versus only 1 Agam at a time. And because they've got less hit points. So, you know, I'm one-shotting occasionally, very consistently 2-rounding the fights. It is less time being spent per battle. And the only thing I really miss, that flexibility. The fact that you got 2 Agama trap tiles back to back gives you pretty much complete control over how many you want to take on any given trip. And it's more about running out of heal potions that is your biggest limiting factor. Getting back to that 61. Makes me comfortable in some ways, but nervous in others because I keep seeing also damage results that I've never seen before. And hoping that they're not a bad sign. We are a bit over 400 health, which I feel like this is fairly low at this point for a Red Mage. I would expect more like 450, even on like a not super controlled playthrough for stat gains. If you were maxing out your stats, you would probably be like 515 right now. So we are definitely a chunky bit of HP behind. And that gap is going to continue to grow because we are going to miss out on all of the vitality gains in the past every time we level up in the future. So those will continue to snowball for a while. Just means that if you're not maxing out your stat gains, you're going to have a much harder time when things get really, really tight, which is, from this point on, primarily going to be chaos. Ooh, only strength up. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Can you correct it? Nope. You are stuck with what you got. At this point, you can't really go back. There's no extra saves or anything. You have whatever vitality points you've saved with, and that's it. Now, ultimately, you don't need to have the most HP or the most strength to be able to win the game. You just need to get luckier in the fight, which might mean that you're taking more trips through Temple of Fiends and having a lot more stress going through Temple of Fiends, in exchange for not having to have laboriously kind of worked at improving the individual level-ups. So the level up maximization is great when you, first of all, absolutely have to have it, or when you want to have more of the work kind of pushed up front, when it's less time critical than waiting till the very end. In our case, Dan does not like to wait. Dan is a Red Mage of action, and most of his actions are quite incorrect. So getting very close to almost consistently one shot in the eye. Like, we're right in the ballpark of the eye's HP total. And the problem is our gains are so small that being really close doesn't turn into being always getting it for a very long time. It's just tantalizingly right at the border, mocking you. You know that if only Dan was just a tiny bit better, he would still not be very good, but it wouldn't be quite as bad. The 100 hit. This is just a much longer cycle than we've seen before, but it's still repeating the same results where I recognize that 100 hit now and then in the critical for 61 damage afterwards. So we're getting those pretty consistent. And it's really good that the eye is getting its critical on a physical attack, because if that was a critical on Brack or Glance, that would be its death. So, you know, it could be worse. Ooh, Civil there. Okay, so you do get some occasional good level ups. I mean, intelligence is useless, but we got strength, vitality, and luck gain on that level. That's almost certainly not going to be guaranteed to get a 4. So we will take it. Okay, the latest 61 crit, that would be a terrible idea. That would basically randomize the time when the eye is at its most dangerous. Instead, we want the eye to be nice and predictable. Which, if we're getting these level ups at a reasonable amount of stat gains, and we get safety for the fights, then ultimately, like, we're looking at probably 2 trips in here. Walking out with close to level 50. I can get some experience in Sea Shrine, some experience in Mirage and Sky. I might not need a 3rd trip in, which would be kind of nice. Just the setup time it takes to get the eye started, and the fact that it's kind of sketchy leaving early means it's nice to do full trips, but partial trips are less pleasant. And Dan, you trust, well, Pixel Dude, you have made some mistakes. Also, at this point, we should be very consistently looking at roughly the same amount of experience per level up. It's not 100% flat, but it is pretty close to the same amount of XP per level. And because we're doing the same fight repeatedly, that means our pace for level ups is going to be very, very flat. Something we're for most of the game, you kind of experience this rapidly growing experience curve. And this kind of matches Dungeons and Dragons, where initially you're looking at your experience requirements like doubling every level. Like it goes up super quick. But that kind of assumes that you're either going to have just a massive number of things that you have to take out to get to max level, or that you have kind of continuous scaling for the entire length of the game. And Final Fantasy doesn't. Final Fantasy has pretty good scaling up to about level 30, 35, and then there's just simply nothing really that much stronger, which is why kind of your expectation of like, this is when the game's gonna be over. You know, timing-wise, you get the final dungeon coming up. And they don't really expect you to go all the way to level 50, which is fine. Most games have an experience cap that is a bit beyond what you expect people to do, and that way if somebody really needs the help, they can go and take those extra level ups, but you're not forcing everyone to max out on every playthrough. I'll just think about when we want to leave here. I can take a couple of extra fights, but I don't have to go much past this. I think my maximum number of fights is 10 past that encounter. Still have another fur giant on the way out. Let's see what our level up's looking like. So we would need 4 more eyes. 4.5. Yeah, let's call it good. We did get some more. It's looking like we've got a fair number of ups from that first Ice Cave trip. And now we just gotta survive to get to the finish. The solo Black Mage doing at this point. I think solo Black Mage probably is gonna need more help getting through the Ice Cave section of anything. Like, a lot of the solo Black Mage is going to be pretty similar to Red Mage. Ultimately, we kind of relied on our spells to carry the day, or up through Ice Cave. Now, we'd have more HP than a Black Mage by a little bit, and that means Red Mage could do Peninsula Power a bit earlier, so you switch over from Ogres to Zombies a little bit sooner. We might have even got it too soon for the Red Mage, but it felt like we were doing decently well on it. And so I don't think the Black Mage is tremendously different at this point. Probably the biggest thing is that the Black Mage is going to have to do a lot more heroic work in Temple of Fiends with their lower max HP total, because the extra spell charges at Temple of Fiends don't really amount to much, and you have also a little bit less healing thanks to the fact that you don't have those Cure 1s and Cure 2s to toss out, or even Cure 3s, which we could probably use once Fire 3 is no longer relevant. So I think you'd be pretty close to this. You might be a little bit behind from the less efficient pre-Peninsula Power grind. And you would also have to consider if the Black Mage is going to have to do all of the manual stack gains. When I did my solo Black Mage challenge, I made sure that every level up was really, really good, which means that you're spending sometimes 10 to 30 minutes just getting the level up crafted. And I'm assuming that that's going to be pretty equivalent whether or not you want to do it for any of the character classes. So Red Mage is taking some shortcuts from that as well. One of the reasons that we took a long time on like Black Mage, White Mage, Thief is because the level up situation is just kind of atrociously bad. And again, you're moving some of that late game pain up front. Speaking of pain, though, it's gonna be time for the Krakening pretty soon. So let's get noodly. Kraken's gonna be a nice change of pace here. We got our first round of eyes in. I feel like that went decently well. We go to the bottom of the Sea Shrine, we get Kraken taken down, probably get a level up on this trip down, so we'll be at that point, level 37. If we don't hit 50 in the ice cave, we're going to be very, very close to it, to the point where I'm pretty certain we can grab 50 before going up to Tiamat. Which means we should only have those 2 ice cave trips. And again, assuming everything goes well, because if we don't get a good RNG loop the next time in, we might seriously struggle to get our foothold established. That is always a constant risk with that. Just because it worked out well that time doesn't mean it's going to work out well next time. Also, kind of by comparison, I think a black belt would be probably finishing up Lich about now. But a black belt would also probably beat Chaos before the Red Mage does. That's how backloaded that character class is. Might be a little bit of exaggeration. We have 4 hours to Bicky, more or less, for a black belt. Yeah, 2 hours from Bicky to Lich is cruising pretty fast. That might not be all that accurate. Alright, plan out our strategy here. So I'm going to skip first Battle of Sea Shrine. I'm going to skip second Battle of Sea Shrine here. Yeah, I need to skip second battle for going downstairs because we don't have enough space there. Oh, it's the one that puts me up at the top, isn't it? There we go. I'm going to skip third battle out of Sea Shrine. But after this, probably is safe to go in. And yeah, we might have to deal with some hag fights. There may be some other miscellaneous nonsense, but at this point, the Red Mage is going to be pretty well equipped. We got a lot more physical defense than we had last time, a lot more offense. Just with our sword being so much better. Thanks to the Thor Hammer and Main Staff. Unlimited Lit 2s and Fire 2s. It's a good thing Dan is really started, because that was a terrible Thor Hammer. These Red Mages barely, Red Sags barely even felt it. Well, let's keep going down. See if we can one-shot Sea Snakes. Those are a decent fight. Gur Sharks are pretty okay. Don't know if we really want to fight a lobster. Seagull and / welcome in. Thank you for the good wishes and enjoy our solo Red Mage weekend here. Alright, probably nothing worth stopping for. Maybe next time. Do I ever get the fog spell? I was totally going to get fog because it seemed like an interesting idea. Fog is the bonus to your physical absorb, which kind of complements your evasion bonus. Evasion means that you're going to be hit less often. Fog means that when you are hit, the damage that you take is lower. And so there's probably some fights where fog is nice, because if an enemy's got critical hits, they're going to just sneak through, even if you've got perfect evasion. And fog helps kind of reduce that, which I guess is not that good versus Chaos, but maybe versus like Kraken too, you could be thinking about it. Anytime that you're just kind of sitting and slogging away for a really long time, fog is nice to have. Battery LSD, welcome in. Thank you much as well for the good wishes, and I hope you're enjoying your weekend. hard. It definitely feels like that fight could have gone better. This is why the eye is so good. Like, this is going to be, yeah, a little bit more experience, like just a very small amount, closer to an Agaba and a half than to 1 Agaba. But the fight was so much slower. And the recovery is so much more involved. You could have probably done like 6 eye fights in the time that you did that one battle. Water here. We're probably gonna have more waters down on Krakens before we get to the end of it. It's good we get 1, because those are pretty easy for Dan to deal with. Oh, that's a terrible level up. Intelligence only is the worst level up you can possibly get. And that was one where we had ample opportunity. This is not in an RNG loop or anything like that. This could have been an actually good level up. Instead, Dan decided not to. That is brutal. Do I really want waters downstairs? They are kind of a pain if we get larger quantities. And I don't really need the experience that badly, so maybe we just skip them. There's a lot of water fights on the bottommost floor. You no longer have the sags, you no longer have the ghosts, so the only unrunnable is the water. And they're so much more frequently appearing. They're pretty much going to have at least 1 fight, but I'd like to not have like 3. Hey, Sass Prog guy, welcome in. Thank you for the good wishes and enjoy. The good news is Fire 3s don't really do much for us, so we can use those up. So far, looking good. Haven't had to dip into our heal potions yet. We should be plenty strong enough for Kraken. Yeah, it seems kind of scary doing Kraken versus Solo Mage, but once we get the fight started, it should go very smoothly. It is a lot of lobster. And it is moderately tempting, but I think the last time I did solo Red Mage, I did a lot of the Sea Shrine Pile of Pain fighting, and it's just a big amount of experience, but very, very slow fights in comparison. That probably is way more time spent grinding than what we're going to do on this eye. The eye potentially has the opportunity to dramatically speed up your pace to getting to Chaos. And also has a chance to dramatically make Chaos way, way harder. Making it way harder, this is not looking good. Welp. Dan had an accident. That's one reason why water is not a good fight. That's true, the battle up could be better. It's all manipulation. Alright, this I'm going to skip an extra battle, get rid of the opening Sahag that we saw. We need to skip battles downstairs, so why not skip them outstairs instead? Let's see how we do this time. It'll slightly line up differently with all the battles on every single floor, so this might get me some worse results on the way down. But if I had to wait a couple battles, I would rather do that waiting when you're not costing as much time, because you could reset out of them, and when you're not costing the resources of having to heal. The occasional painful light. This time we will not be tempted to spend our efforts on these measly and bigger enemies. We know that we've got bigger fish to fry and really, really big octopuses. We go. And down we go. We're going to hit the bottom of the sea shrine, one way or another. I hope there's another way down here. Like, if there's like an elevator, I would take an escalator. Maybe even, if we wanted to have a little bit more exercise, we could take the back door stairs. Save us so much pain and so many hugs. I plan to put classic fantasy Final Fantasy games on YouTube. I'm gonna do it after I have all of like the challenge runs and things complete. And then I will see how much interest and value there is for fantasy Final Fantasy. The amount of time that it takes to do kind of the prep work for it kind of has to get weighed over like how many people are actually watching them. So definitely the more people watching YouTube, the more likely that these things happen. Skip one encounter. That's going to be the same one that we skipped last time. I think you get water regardless, so might as well get one instead of probably two. But let's do it. This time, Dan will hopefully not have any unfortunate accidents. Like, we were so close to cracking. So very uncomfortably close. But against 9 water battles, nope, the most is 6. And that's only in Temple of Fiends. In this place, it's going to be a maximum of 3. And this time, the maximum amount of danger going to be this water elemental battle, which hopefully goes better. The first one definitely did not. All right, looking a lot better. No massive criticals this time. Dan has easily taken out the first water elemental. Starting in on the second. His thirst cannot be quenched. All right, his thirst has been quenched. Level up. Strength, agility, intelligence, vitality. Okay, that was a pretty big improvement compared to our last level up with that level. I will call that one not bad. Well, this. The start of the Krakening. Good start, you think. Because it's a free round. 2 free rounds. Alright, let's see how double defense works for evasion. No, we are still getting it pretty often. So we need triple defense here still. Triple should be enough to get us down to only the criticals, and since we know that this is going to be scary, some Cure 3's on just to get back into better shape. Fast spell on so that we're doing more damage per round. But that's a good little gauge of exactly where we are. Kraken doesn't have the highest possible accuracy score, but seeing that we still need triple defense on Kraken means that anything else is still triple defense until we get further information. That's the only thing that does not go 100% smoothly. Bracket's done. Alright, so one tough one out of the way. We go back to the ice cave. We get to enjoy the company of our pal, the eye, again for 30 minutes. Of sheer terror, non-stop agony. For each and every second. Might be our last. We're going to do team match, which is going to be even more fun than Kraken. We're doing Kraken because at this point the Fiends don't really have any appreciable differences. There is no value in doing any of their dungeons. We are only going in to get our requirements done. Since Carrie's got spells. Carrie's actually kind of a less good fight than Kraken. I think Carrie's probably easier than Tiamat. If you want to do Carrie before Tiamat, that'd be fine. But we should be level 50 by the time that we do this ice cave trip, so it's not like there's any appreciable change at that point from either order. Speaking of ice cave, that's where we're going again next. We had 37, that means maximum number of eyes required is 130, which is pretty close to the number that you can get a trip. So we might be at level 50 by the time that we are done with this. If not, we're going to be close enough that I'm not really worried at all about getting to 50 just from the dungeons and not having to do another ice cave in. That is a bit of relief. I was worried it'd be like 3 ice caves or like 2.5 ice caves required. Being done after 2 means I'm actually a little bit ahead of where I thought I was. Out of the way. Could not have to deal with those anymore. We're going to couple of fur giants on the way down. Those eat up my fire 3s, which I do have more of now. But Cure 3 is what I hope to convert a lot of those into, so that we have almost all, if not all, of our healing done through spells and not have to buy more heal potions at the end of it. So another really nice thing about getting the grinding done kind of front-load it is that you use up way fewer heal potions, and so you spend way fewer minutes buying those heal potions back. It's another good reason to put carry off to the end. Nice no frost. That's just the way we like them. Alright, 13 more level ups, and that's as much improvement as we get until we're into Temple of Fiends. Temple of Fiends, we would have the Pro Cape on Carry 2's floor. So before Carry 2, we get to have +6 to our defense score, which is helpful, but not going to be earth-shattering. And of course, at the end, we get the Masmune, which is definitely really, really good. If we did not have the Masmune, then the Red Mage would be in a lot of trouble. Even with the Masmune, Chaos is extraordinarily scary. It comes down to a lot of RNG for what Chaos's move order is like. You need to have basically, hopefully not a bad timing of Cure 4 relative to when you start attacking. You need to have, ideally, Chaos burning skills off while you are getting your defense sword set up, and then you want to have him physical once you've got the ability to evade his hits. So there's many ways that Chaos can go quite badly. '80s arcade. I hope you have a good time here tonight. We are doing our last bit of leveling before we get to the end of the game. So welcome to the Ice Cave. We are going to be here for a little while killing this eye. But after that, it is a sprint to the finish. Also going to see if we have a bad RNG setup here for any of these attacks. Glance, Squint, Barak all have a 3 in 256 chance of instantly killing our 1 mage, which would be not very good. Well, StarCraft is massive in Korea. Is it StarCraft 1 or StarCraft 2? I know StarCraft 2 has remained ridiculously popular, but it has a lot more of a base to build off of. The original StarCraft, I had huge amounts of fun with it when it first came out. But I think StarCraft 2 is what really kind of captured the multiplayer and competitive aspects of it. Okay, StarCraft 1 remastered then. Yeah, it was decently good. I wish that they did more of that type of remasters than the Warcraft 3 remaster. Like, there are ways that you can very badly remaster a game, and ways that you can make it so that the original game experience is still enjoyable. That's one where Diablo 2 is walking a very fine line. Like, it did pretty decently. But it could very easily have gone wrong. Okay, strength vitality on that level up. We we'll see how things go from there. Also, we should see what our accuracy score looks like. 38, we're at 111. So we're looking at 9 more levels for the next attack round, which is going to be very, very near the end. So we're not going to really see much of a change throughout this. So we should have fairly consistent eyes until maybe the last little bit of it, and that's when it gets scary again. Wonderful. We can backload the panic. Hey, Kodro, welcome in. Hope you're enjoying your night end. I hope you enjoy our solo Red Mage challenge. Currently in what should be the very last grind of the game. Doing our push up to level 50 and then we're going to finish off 2 more fiends and fight chaos. Hey, welcome in, Godro. I hope you're enjoying your weekend here. This was a 2-day challenge. On day number 1, it was a lot of the scary opening bits to the game. The Red Mage actually starts off pretty well. I feel like Red Mage, after Fighter, second best character class for like the first 10 level experience. You don't have to do a whole bunch of work to get like Garland down, to get Bicky down. And even working up to like Marsh, Cave, and Astos feels reasonably nice. Then the difficulty jumps a lot. You've got to work at getting past Lich, which is super tough. So many things in the Earth Cave can be an issue. Ordeals does not let up. Even if it's a very short dungeon, it is extremely intense. And the first time you go to this ice cave, that thing is a nightmare. But you have a bit of a break. Post ice cave, you're in your enjoyment phase. Get so many gear upgrades. Your stats are so much better. The grinds are actually not that painful. Although they are very, very scary that we could just randomly die and lose all the progress. But then, Temple of Fiends. That is going to be the big nightmare. So hopefully we get fully and adequately prepared. And thanks so much to our anonymous gifter there. Glad you've been enjoying Fantasy Final Fantasy. I do thank you very much for the support. I think Red Mage is pretty fun. It's not as easy of a time as Fighter or Black Belt. Those are the 2 character classes that don't really have to sweat as hard at the end of the game. Fighter at level 50 is going to be tearing through things. Black Belt like level 40, maybe 42 for the 2 bonus attacks is more than enough. Like Black Belt's the only character class where level 50 is not even required. But then after that, once you get into a little bit of the harder group here, Red Mage is kind of the middle difficulty level. It's not unbearably soul-crushing. There are times when it's tough. There are times where it definitely is going to hurt. And I am anticipating the ending is going to be a nail-biter, but compared to, like, The Thief, it's so relaxed. Like, The Thief would be... Would the Thief have beaten Bicky by now? I think the Thief would have beaten Bicky, but would probably have many more hours left to go to beat Astos. And that's the part that's scary. I think Final Fantasy 2's got a good game and story. There's a couple things that people push back on, and I can understand a lot of it. Like, there is not a ton of personality for the characters. I mean, Final Fantasy 1 and 3 have basically no personality. You're meant to kind of bring your own adventure to it. But if you kind of historically compare Final Fantasy 2 versus the more character-driven ones, like especially starting with Final Fantasy 4, it's not going to hold up in that dimension. And the original release of Final Fantasy 2 is very rough, like it is extremely painful in spots. But if you're playing it from the remakes, you've got a lot of quality life improvements, especially starting from GBA onward. I think they're pretty fun. I kind of ignore all the bonus stuff, like Donna Souls for Final Fantasy II is not a great addition to the story, but it's better than the After Use. So at least it's not like the worst bonus content. Like Final Fantasy II, I'm not at all bothered by the Pixel Master not including the post-game story. It's like, yeah, I feel like I got my money's worth from just the base game. Yeah, the Pixel Master is a pretty good way to play too. It's got some really good music, especially near the very end of the game. There's like a dungeon theme that is one of the best in the series. And so few people are going to hear it because you have to get to the end of Final Fantasy II to experience the magic. I gotta try again with spell leveling. I mean, leveling like that is kind of morphed into the job system of Final Fantasy V and Tactics. You've got slightly bigger buckets than the individual spells. So the spells are more like what the weapons and armor of Final Fantasy II are like. And I think that's kind of perfectly valid, because otherwise you're just not going to be able to have that many spells in the game. If you had 64 spells and everyone's individual leveled, you're going to pick your favorite 5 or 6. And because they're leveled, you can't really use any of the non-picked ones because they're all going to suck. So it makes you kind of very much scope things down. Whereas if you level up, say, all of time magic or all of black magic, then it's a lot easier to kind of specialize, but still have a little bit of selection and variety. So you're not doing the same move every single fight. Yeah, the Famicom version is really, really bad in places. For people that have not seen it, the Famicom version of the Final Fantasies, like the early Dragon Warriors, is basically coming out every year. We're used to having an environment where these mainline series have, 10 years in between releases. It has been like 10 years since we've had Dragon Quest XI come out. Persona 5 is like 10 years old, but they're still going to be more years before their next one gets released. So being in an era where 12 to 18 months in between the games, they cannot get a lot done. They're starting from scratch on the storylines. They're going to reuse a lot of graphics and things, so Final Fantasy II on the Famicom looks like Final Fantasy I. So all of the character personalization in the remakes, that doesn't exist. And then the systems are not well tested because they have 12 to 18 months to release the game from start to finish. It's going to take a couple of months to design it, and a couple months to implement it. And by the time that they're testing, they're probably weeks before the release of the game. And they're still finishing stuff. So, if anything breaks, it is just, sorry, no way to fix it. And then once they get to the Super Nintendo, they kind of slow down a little bit. It's still very fast-paced. I think Final Fantasy 1 to 6 is about as much time as in between individual games in the series is now. But at least they're taking 2 years instead of 18 months. Like 40 highest level spell. The spell leveling and all the stuff in Final Fantasy II has kind of an opposition system against the enemies. So the stronger that you're fighting, the faster that you get the experience points for it. And there's other ways that the game breaks as well from various things, but I think what trips up a lot of people in those games is that initially, you can fight like some bees outside of the starting town and you're getting a good amount of progress. But then it slows down, then it actually just stops. And until you get to the next class of enemies, you cannot advance your levels any further, which is a good way of gating that you can't over-grind on easy stuff. But it means that if you hit a challenge that you are not prepared to overcome, there might not be a good way to further advance. Like, there is more content in the game, but it's locked behind getting through the next boss, the next area, to be able to get the appropriate enemies to fight. Yeah, Down to Souls is where I think, for the GBA, Final Fantasy 2 got a much needed upgrade. There is a PlayStation 1 version of it. Like, that is, like the other PlayStation releases, much closer to the original, although it has a lot of bugs fixed and basic improvements. GBA's kind of got a big overhaul for those. And so Final Fantasy 2, like, GBA is a really good one. And then until Pixel Master came out, GBA is the one that you would kind of recommend as like, this is maybe the best version to play. But these days, GBA is getting increasingly hard for people to have consoles and systems to use it on, so unless it's a really, really big difference, like Final Fantasy 1, you miss out on all of this great bonus content at the end. Pixel Master kind of covers a lot of bases, at least for the early ones. More good levels there. We've had some very good level ups. Been pretty happy with the numbers that we've seen for our stat gains. Problem is it's a little bit late for vitality, so we can't make up for the missing hit points. But if we get a whole bunch of strength, agility, and luck points, those are going to make our combat effectiveness go up just as well as if we'd gotten those points in the 20s. Only question is going to be when we get 5 attacks per round. Is that going to mess up our great RNG? We've definitely crossed over the threshold for when we can pretty consistently hit around the eye's maximum HP, which means sometimes we're one-shotting it. Not 100% of the time, but often enough to kind of speed these fights up, which means that our Red Mage is probably about as strong as like a level 13 fighter. And we're coming up on level 40. Kraken's suddenly gone. Kraken is not sudden. Kraken was an adventure. Hopefully the other fiends go smoothly. Do we have the lamp spell for chaos? I mean, it would be the smart play. But nobody's ever accused Dan of being smart. Good news that we got a relatively stable RNG loop from here for a bit. It's a pretty long loop, so you don't see like the same attack over and over again, but so far this loop has been coupled with some pretty good stat gains. So I've been very happy with what our level progress has been for a lot of stats that have been neglected for a while. And I talked about this, but again, if you want to absolutely maximize your stats. It's really important to do so for Vitality at the start of the game, as that's going to have a cumulative impact on all future level ups. Like the first 10 to 15 levels are the very, very critical ones to kind of get a much firmer foundation. But we shouldn't need that for Red Mage. It's just going to be something that we really wish that we had. One more fight and we're out of here. And by one more fight, I mean one more of those off-tile fights, which could be like 50 eyes from now. The important thing is that you just make certain that you exit at some well-defined intervals. You want to be exiting when you're not going to have any mage battles on either the bottom floor or on the top floor. Obviously, Sorcerer is also pretty bad. But if you stay here too long, you get mages on the middle floor, and then it's not going to be fun. So our window of viability is something that's pretty heavily constrained by the encounters around us. The biggest downside of the eye grind, besides that, on this version you can't save anywhere, so you're risking a lot of progress if something goes badly. So far, so good, though. 45's done. That vitality point is really kind of sketchy. If we just hit a multiple of 4, great. Then you get a vitality point repeatedly. But if you just started a new multiple of 4, that might be kind of useless. Like at this stage, you're trying to manipulate level ups. Vitality is becoming almost worthless. Strength, Agility, Luck are all still really good here. Strength comes in pairs, so you need a multiple of 2 on that. Vitality is multiple of 4. Agility and Luck have incremental value for any amount, although it is particularly noticeable when you hit the breakpoint where you need 1 fewer defense sword uses to hit maximum agility. Like that is a massive, massive difference. But that's going to be 40 points of agility, so it is also very infrequent. That's what it comes down to. If you wanted to plan out what is the absolute best statistical character, because it's probably not possible to get every single stat gain and maximum HP all the time. You're going to have to prioritize in some way. And there are some stats that are important to keep to the end, some stats that you can kind of drop off, or even along the way. You're going to have to make some decisions where, at a given level up, you might not be able to get all the gains at the same time. I don't know if anyone's ever mapped it out, but it would definitely make these type of solo challenges much easier to have kind of like a guideline of these are level ups that are possible to get, that seem reasonable. Even if it's like a 1 2d6 chance, you'd at least want to know, hey, it could happen. And some of them might be better or worse odds. Hey, Shinzil. Yeah, pretty much anybody that doesn't get a bunch of base points on level ups consistently is going to struggle for making up all of the non-guaranteed ones. And to be able to insert the mage type classes, because they will have their points in useless things like intelligence. Or points in thief, which is just useless in general. I don't know, black mage for a solo run, nice. I keep talking about, but someday we just need to have a better guide for how to do this eye grind so that there is more flexibility for when you can go in and out. Like if you need to have 80 eyes or you need to have 200 eyes, is there a way to set up the encounters at the start so that you're not spending as much time per loop around and you're not trapped in the ice cave if you don't have any travel spells? Those would be kind of important. Something that I've meant to do for a long time, just never get around to it. Yeah, I remember doing solo Black Mage and finding some of those even early levels when you have a couple of guaranteed points was still tough to do. I think what I eventually did was just kind of give up on the max HP for most of the rolls. Especially early on, that's going to have not a lot of cumulative effect. Whereas the other stats tended to be more important. Especially Vitality for like a good long while. Getting long-term HP is usually better than getting short-term. Right, 47's done. IVL is pretty bad, but we've gotten a whole bunch of Vitality points, which is a little bit late for them. Could have really used these like 25 levels ago. Ooh, now we're in the danger zone. 5 hits. This is new RNG that we've not seen before. It's also home stretch for our ice cave grind here. Like, we should be pretty consistently one-shotting the eye now, which is going to reduce the number of glances and bracks that we see. But we should not get bracks anymore because it has to go through XXX first. The pirates at level 6. That sounds horrible. It's like, yeah, you could probably have enough spell slots to get a bunch of guaranteed kills. But getting the luck to survive the first couple rounds is really tough. The eye farming always risky. The eye farming is, for a solo character, these alternating periods of extreme safety and extremely not at all safety. Because we get into RNG loops quite readily. Like, we will see the same patterns of random numbers over and over again. And once you get into a loop, you're safe. And if you've got a loop that persists between level ups, then you're really safe for a long time. The problem is, at certain levels, there's going to be this discontinuous change. When you get an extra attack per round, for example, that's going to really throw everything off. And suddenly, your safety is just gone until you can reestablish that you're not in the vicinity of a bad time. Alright, Strength, Agility, Luck is a fantastic level for 48. I will take a lot more Sals here. Like, at this point, Vitality is worthless. Like, even if you had a multiplier coming up, you would get 2 points of HP for it. Whereas Strength, Agility, Luck, those are going to be still really, really good. Especially Strength and Agility. I don't think Luck is going to be as critical still. Alright, we've got maximum 10 eyes to go. Means we can get one more level up here, which put us at level 49. Get 50 on the way to Tiamat, most likely. If I do Tiamat at 49, also not too put out by it. We'll have 50 by the time that we get to Temple of Fiends pretty easily. So I think eye grind number 2 is in the closing minutes. We get 50 on Warbeck, I would say probably not. If we kill Chaos fast enough. We will do a bonus war mech after the run is done. But only if you're all good. Yeah, 50 is the maximum level, which is, for some character classes, ridiculously high. Like the Black Belt is already going to be so overpowered, it's not even funny. The Fighter is going to be not quite as overpowered, but still very, very good at level 50. But everybody else could definitely use a couple more levels to big time. That's what we're looking at here. One more to go. Let's do it. $49. Strength, intelligence, vitality, luck. Well, 2 of those stats were good. Alright, 1.5 of those stats was good. I feel like these level ups were way better than what we got in the previous loop around. Which is a bit of a shame, because if you want them the other way around, you would get much more long-term value, but at least one of the 2 was decent for combat stats. Has to take over around level 40. The Master is going to be about equal to the Fighter with the Excalibur at like level 25. And by the time that you're closing in a level 30, you're better than the Fighter with the Mass Mune. At 32, you get a massive damage bonus. At 42, you get another massive damage bonus. Like, it is just not even necessary at that point. Is done. The ice cave is over. Alright. 600 health, which is probably about 150 lower than what we could have gotten. So we're missing out on a lot of HP on this Red Mage. Are there any unbeatable solo classes? No, I've beaten the game with every single class solo, no class change. Yes, even the Thief. Oh no. It was not good. Oh, my burgers! And my wings. That is an incredible disappointment. Lunch has been ruined. Why leave carry to last? Because there's nothing valuable in Gurgu Volcano, and doing carry last means I could just tank all of the lava damage and heal up with spells, so I don't buy any more healing potions. That's what we do versus guards. Yeah, okay, I guess. Could be better. Tower ran away. Yeah, the enemies around Mirage Tower actually don't have as much morale as the enemies in the Sea Shrine. Which was kind of a weird discovery. Like, I would have expected that enemies in the Sea Shrine would be running away in the high 30s, and the ones here would be pretty much never able to panic. But it's the other way around. And so if you're trying to grind with these solo characters, back in the day I thought this would be the place to do it. But it turns out this is probably not even like the top 3 spots to do the grinds at. One of the reasons is just because of the running away problem. As the enemies start running away, you get fewer opportunities to earn experience. And that becomes quite costly. This looks bad. It is, Dan. It is definitely bad. But in terms of progress, like, 7 hours to this point is really good. Now, ultimately, it's going to come down to how many times it takes to get through Temple of Fiends, but I feel like I am comfortably ahead of where I expected to be on this playthrough. So we could take a few cracks at Temple of Fiends before it would even be a worry for the time. Now it's cracking 2 tries. Hopefully Tiamat will only require 1. Bluey, I don't think fast really benefits me here. Yeah, so either way, you'd have been 2 rounds. And this way, if you're just swinging, you have a chance of getting a lucky 1 shot. Oh wait, never mind. 3 rounds without it. Maybe fast would help. I was expecting for sure that would be a 2-round fight. At least we didn't get thundered. I think that's a plus. So we don't need anything here. I would like to have the Bane Sword, maybe, but I'm going to try it without it. It may or may not be a terrible idea skipping the Bane Sword. I'm going to see if I can get the Pro Cape without having to do a bunch of extra work for Warmack here. If I had Warp, it would not be a problem. Because we're skipping the White Shirt, we're skipping Excalibur, we're skipping the Ribbon. But we're taking a lot of steps on this upper floor. This is a pretty long walk. And that's a Pro Cape, which is pretty good. Well, armor upgrades are done. My alternative was getting that Pro Cape off of Carry 2, which honestly would not have been the worst idea. We made these. Yeah, it's just fine. Not a huge amount of damage. And yeah, like they run as well, so. Could be kind of a low value fight if you do it. Why is Carry last? Because you don't get anything of value for doing Gurgi Volcano. And if I can heal with spells, I have to buy as many heal potions. So the lava tiles get easier as you get leveled up. Just by a bit. Oh, we totally made it across here. I probably could have gotten the Bane Sword. And had steps to spare. Yeah, maybe not. They're really close. Bane Sword would have been probably about as many steps as getting the Pro Cape. Yeah, those were not super far apart for those encounters. And now we gotta go up if we want to get a good interval for finding a War Necklace route. Because you wait too long, things get complicated. And we get level 50 strength, agility, and a worthless vitality point. I must have gotten vitality like almost every level at 42 plus. So my vitality score is going to look really good, but my hit point total is not. Alright, good news, we do not need to get level 50 on Warwick now. That will save us some trouble. And this will save us from the incredible curse of not knowing enough about the Agama. Where you see, like the nachos, the Agama Research Society has been hard at work, uncovering new properties of the Agama. Thanks to the Agama Research Society, and thanks to viewers like you, we now know that Agamas, contractually, must be brought some figgy pudding. I hope that you've got yours ready. How long does this run take until it is done? Which, if we have a first try Temple of Fiends, would be less than an hour from now. If we do not have a first try Temple of Fiends, it may be some time. Alright, so we can out heal Tiamat's skills. Ooh, 368 is really good damage. Shouldn't have to worry too much about the physical attacks. Alright, we're at about 500, which is halfway through here. The more Tiamat physicals, the better off we are. 650, 350 to go. 300 to go. Dan is getting a little bit tired. We cure 3 for some safety here. Yeah, we're not getting a lot more than the Tiamat moves. Cure 3 is doing a little bit less good in battle than I was hoping. That's a bit better. It is kind of a worrying sign that we are probably not able to heal our way out of a Deficit versus Chaos. Hey, Blind Umpire, welcome in. Yeah, hope you're having a good weekend. You have heal 2. Nope, you do not get any healing spells unless you are a White Mage. That'd also be pretty useless because as a solo character, you would rather have the single target cures than the healing spells. We'll have Tiamat. Finished off. Level 50 has been obtained. 616 our hit point total. Again, I think we're about almost 150 hit points under what our maximum potential was. So that's a little bit scary. That's a fairly hefty margin of safety that we are not going to have in Temple of Fiends. Like, that's one really big melee hit that we have basically taken at the start of the fights. But if we take out Carrie, then we'll have our 4 Fiends done. And well, I might have the Bane Sword. I will at least have a chance. Bane Sword is only really going to be a thing if we were incredibly desperate, trying to go for the 3 in 56 chance of it working on Chaos. Because in any other situation, you're not going to be able to finish the game. Like, it has to be Chaos, or else it doesn't really make sense to try the Bane Sword. And at 3 in 56, like, you're probably better off just hoping that you get an RNG loop. That is almost certainly a higher probability. You got a couple of defense swords up. Chaos can probably have more than 3 possible moves where he's going to miss. And any of those loops would work. Only 20 blocks to cast? Yeah, that's like 10 hours, though. The problem is each chip to cast takes half an hour. So if you're relying on a super low probability strategy, and that's assuming that you get to chaos on every walk, which is definitely not going to happen, you're going to have many attempts that fail to other things. Just getting to Phantom. Just getting past Lich 1 nukes. The random 3 and 2d6 of the Banes and the Rubs from Carrie and from Tiamat, the Kraken Doodles, like so many things are going to end it before you even get there. To then have a really slim chance is why you don't really want to go for those strategies. Also the Germeduses. You do not want the Germeduses. Alright, 2 defense swords, hopefully enough. And then hopefully he's going to be on his way to chaos before we know it. I mean, the good news is there's nothing progress-wise that we can get in Temple of Fiends. There's no halfway completing it, going back out and having to get more healing potions. Like, we are going in and that's about it. So this is just about the beginning of the end. Let's go. Doing it fogless. I've been so tempted to get fog, but like it doesn't really make sense once we get into this. Probably should have done that first one inside as well. I know some of these can be done outside, and you won't mess up the step pattern. But I guess we'll find out if we've done that here. Dragonfire 4269, thank you very much for resubscribing back for 32 months. And enjoy our wonderful assortment of Agama facts. Getting there. I'm going to skip some battles at the start so that we do not have to deal with gas dragons and other assorted nonsense on the way down. That means we have to deeply delve into the back of this place, see what secrets are lurking here. Okay, so not much. We go in, we head to the left, we head to the right. We take one step backwards for luck. And then we prepare to head 2,000 years back in time. Alright, time number 1. It will hopefully not be necessary to pre-crack the black orb to save the 5 seconds on the pop-ups. Because if it is, then we know things have gone pretty badly. That was a big hit. Every time we see damage, we know that we are losing valuable heal potions. Even with a solo character, you are going to be still on a pretty strict budget for how many heal potions you can use on the way down. I do not really want to spend time trying to heal scum on purple orbs. But at this rate, I might have to. 362 is already pretty bad. We're just getting to the Phantom Zone. Alright. Here we go. I'm going to try this without the defense sword. See if Dan can just smash the Phantom before we get absolutely mauled by physicals. Phantom's got such a high critical rate that I feel like the evasion is not as useful as other encounters. But Kaylee P, thank you very much for resubscribing back for 65 months. I hope you're having a great time here tonight. And enjoy. Made it past Phantom. That is our new high score for Temple of Fiend's trips here. So we head down the backside. And not a great fight for grinding our heal potions or heal staffs out, but I might have to take it given that we took a lot of damage on that previous area. Worms are very scary. And downstairs we're going to fight with either 3 or 4, which is no picnic. Oh, so we're going to do all the animations even if they're dead. It's so painful. We really have to do this. Could there not be a better way? What if? What if we just risked it all? I'm not gonna have a... No, we're probably not gonna have a Nucleus Lich. It is almost certainly not gonna be a Nucleus Lich. How's it on the Agamas? The Agamas are gonna have heat, which means that even if you have protections up, they're still gonna have a very consistent move that does roughly 1 heal staff worth of damage. And if you got a full team doing this, great. You're going to be able to kind of overcompensate for the damage that you're taking. For a solo character, it's generally not good. Fire Elemental is maybe one you consider. It's a little bit less beefy than Purple Worm here. Yeah, if we had Cure 2 instead of Heal 1, that would be fantastic. When we want to spam the heal staff, basically we want to try and get relatively low damage enemies, which are very, very few at this point. So we need enemies that don't have spells and skills. The enemies that don't have super high critical hit rates. Enemies that are going to be positioned in a place where you are actually in need of healing, which is typically right after the fiends, and then not super dangerous. So like all kinds of things that are very unlikely to happen at the same time, all have to happen at the same time. Well, there's the nuke 181. It's not the worst nuke in the world, although it's a little bit on the high side for a non-critical. I'll take it. take down Lich. Best possible outcome there is that you fast first round Lich physicals, then you go first and one-shot him, which is pretty improbable as the Red Mage, but you would love to see it. Firefight can be a little bit pesky, but this is not going to be nearly as bad as the performance later. This one's just practice. Are we getting the Masmune? Oh yes, we were getting the Masmune. I would get 2 Masmunes if we could. And because we don't have the warp spell, it gets even worse, because the opportunities to get across Tiamat's floor are very few and far between. And having to walk all the way back from the Masmune to the stairs basically blows one of your best ones. So try and pile pain monsters or the ones downstairs here. I think we give ourselves the biggest window that we can for Masmune pickups, so let's go fight Carrie. I am almost tempted to brave sorcerers on the way into Tiamat's floor. Okay, so that's pretty bad for the start. Oh, that's really bad. All right, well, Carrie hopefully will not critical us. Will not rub us through a ribbon. And it will not cause any more problems. It's already been a lot of problems. So many problems. Carrie got 7 health. This is like not even the hard fights. The hard fights are downstairs. This is why every heal potion is precious. So yeah, thinking about maybe daring some sorcerers. That sounds like a terrible idea. But maybe it's the best one we got. Normally very much avoid the sorcerers. And they're still scary, but at level 50, you're going to have them run away a lot. They're going to be very unlikely to hit you with the death touch and the trances, so it's not quite as horrible. Although it is still very, very bad. Also, it kind of assumes that we're getting past Kraken, and that is not something that you want to assume. Because of his time. One more step for the Krakening. So trust it. Alright, here we go. Kraken 2. Good start. Two defense swords up. This is fabulous. So far, looking really good. I mean, this is an incredible Kraken here. This is the Kraken that you would dream to have. And now I'm wondering if I bet it all on the sorcerers. Let's go down. We're rolling the dice. Big thing about this is it saves me so much time on the setup for the return back. Alright, we're past them. NES Carnality, welcome in. Thank you very much for the raid there, and thank you for the good wishes. We are attempting a solo Red Mage playthrough. We're in Temple of Fiends! But it is not going to be easy from here. Welcome in, Real Squirrels, Zerk Goober, NES Cardinality, Bohan99. Hope you enjoy our solo Red Mage. It might be almost over, or you might be here for a couple hours. We still have to do the purple worms coming up. This is a scary fight. Get our maximum HP going. I would love to have the Masbine for it, but I don't think we make it there in steps. It's 4. Alright, get that defense sword up. Get that defense sword up. And get those dodges going. Oh, that's really bad. Just need no criticals. Just need no more criticals. Just need no more criticals. There were more criticals. Alright, best so far has been getting to the purple worms. That was try number 1. That's not even the hard part. Hey, Chief Look. Our White Warriors are named after some of our top finishers from the Fantasy Final Fantasy Season 37. And you can see who it is on the screen at the bottom right. What's the critical hit rate for purple worms on Dan? 100%. That one was really close. Like, yeah, Carrie was very scary, but the other fiends did not cause too many problems. Sorcerers were fine, which I think I'm going to try the sorcerer play again. Just unfortunate that we can't go through this place any faster for getting there so that we can get the Masbine before the purple worms. If I didn't have to do the fast spell, that would save me so much trouble. But nothing. We'll save this from going to the left. To the right. Taking one step back for luck. And think of this time. These zombies cannot stop us. Alright, past the zombies. We did step 1. That's looking somewhat good that I was not using up as many heal potions as I feared, but we did have some really good stretches on that trip down. So I don't know if I can safely get away with not doing any heal staff scumming. But it'd be very nice if we could. That was not very nice. So far, it has been not nice at all. Hopefully these men will not be that bad. Alright, then we're okay. Okay, man, is the man for us here today. This is the Phantom. Here we go. Can you run with purple worms? Nope, it is not possible. All right, Phantom's down. Again. And we will head down to the backside. That'd have been pretty big if we got in our first try Temple of Fiends. I feel like this is going to come down a lot to just so many bits of luck. Each of the Fiends, the Phantom fight, even the random encounters can be big. And you need to have all successes. Basically like 20 times in a row. Hey, Link's Father 99, welcome in. That's not where I thought the defense sword was. I need to fix that. Cost me a fair bit of health for doing it. It is unfortunate. I think the totem hits is the same whether I do faster or not. Especially once I'll be out. That's the thing on these initial ones when it's 1 or 2. Fast is going to be less impactful. But on the 4 purple worm fight, if you got a lucky crit and just got 1 out early, that would make such a huge difference. Alright, so I need to fix my defense sword location and probably save over this game so that we have it in the correct spot. Oh yeah, trip number 1, I moved the heal staff around, and that's when we did the defense sword at the same time. That's why it's not there. It's always 4, it's either 3 or 4, you get a 50% chance. And so if we get a 3-pack, it really helps, although you can still easily get destroyed by them. But a 4-pack makes it worse. Medusa's. Can we avoid the stun touch? Dang, gets out of there. Last time we did a solo playthrough, the Medusa stun touch may have been the most common point of failure for that. It happens a lot. Let's see how we do with this Lich. It was 181 on our first nuke, I think. Nukeless Lich would be fantastic. A 368, not fantastic. That is a lot of heal potions just used up. Our heal potion count is definitely not going well. Probably use like 20 per fiend here. So we might be very close to being almost out of heal potions. Now I got Cure 3s, but I would love to have those for Chaos if at all possible. It is possible that you might slightly extend your fight, especially if you're trying to bait out Chaos's Cure 4. But it's hard to say how likely it is that to make a difference. Hey Marcus, welcome in. I hope you're enjoying your evening. I hope you enjoy our solo Red Mage playthrough. We are in try number 2 of Temple of Fiends. First try got inches away from the master, and it was so close. Dan doing work? No, Dan is just faking it. We will know that Dan has done well when Dan accidentally kills Chaos. And until then, he's still on probation. Alright, Carrie, what are the scarier fights? And that's the reason why. A lot of these fiends get significantly simpler once we've got our defense swords up to those first round or two. Is where they could just squeeze in so much physical damage, and then you are very much behind the curve for survival. Alright, did I get rubbed through our ribbon? This time we use a couple less heal potions on Carrie. Kraken, I think it's very unlikely that we're going to have as good of a Kraken fight as we did last time. That was just the best Kraken fight you could have. But Carrie, slightly less bad. Believe it, Dan, that is a bold choice. But let's see if Dan can do it. I mean, I was very impressed with that first try on Kraken 2. So I would not be surprised if there was an accident. Here we go. Yeah, that's not good. Definitely not a good start for the refight. Ink, that was nice. I will take things when we get them. The problem is that Kraken can still squeeze through criticals, and you do not have a lot of criticals that you can eat. Lit 2s are fine. Inks are great. Critical, not so much, so we do not want to see the physicals. Not seeing the same damage number, so it's not a loop. So far, we're just getting lucky. is what you need to get. There's cracking down. Next obstacle, sorcerers. The thing is, I can either take the sorcerers before or after the Mazmune, or I can wait a whole lot of battles. And none of these sound like great options. But do I really have to take the sorcerers down here? Like, this is not that many steps we're getting towards the floor. Yeah, it's a decent-sized chunk. Probably quarter of the way across there. Alright, then we know that we get the purple worms just before the Mazmune. Be so great if we get the Mazmune first. Like, we are so close to having that in a better order. But even with the extra daring, you just don't quite get it. Alright, once again, it is all 4 purple worms. But Dan gets the defense sword off early. That's a big deal. Round 1, very, very big. If we can get some misses in here, huge advantage over the previous one. Yeah, it's a big critical, though. The critical definitely does not help. Late defense sword, round 2. Squeezes one more hit in. Okay. I think I have to survive 14 hits with only 1 crit. It's not comfortable. I will definitely say that. We're getting closer with every purple. Okay, well now it's not good. At this point, I would say Dan just needs to go first. Dan just needs to not miss. And Dan needs to go get that Mazmune. We are very rapidly running heal potions. This number is not good. But the sword is. All right, can we get past Tiamat? Can we get to Tiamat without running out of health? It's dicey. Why not exit? Because we do not have travel spells. You could not get those without a class change. And you did not get to keep the Mazmune. All right, last fight before Tiamat. Let's go. Final Fiendry fight. Can we do it? Dan does not get Bane to the ribbon. Good start. Now we know 2 defense swords is not enough for perfect evasion. We have to get a 3rd one out there. If we had more agility points, a couple better stat rolls, we probably could have survived with only 2 defense swords, which would have been very good. Free turn, basically. But since we now at least know that is important to have versus Chaos. Because Chaos is where we are going next. Could be it. This could be the final showdown, or this could be Dan's greatest defeat. Let's see how we do. 2,000 hit points to go. And Dan's got the defense sorted up. Dan does not fall to crack. Good start. Oh, that's a terrible start. That is an awful, no good start. Dan did not do it. Best so far, made it to chaos. It would have been interesting if we had not gotten the initial clobbering, because using nothing but skills. Maybe you could have tried it pre-Cure 4. I don't know if it would have been a great idea, but you would have at least had an option to. But now we're going to do it all over again. Alright, skip a bunch of battles. This is getting rid of some of the less good encounters. Like, we don't want to fight gas dragons up at the top. Problem is, there's no good path through. There's only paths that are slightly less bad. Oh yeah, if we had to keep the Masmune, it would be a very different story because you would be pretty likely able to do everything up to Tiamat so much faster and easier. But you'd save a couple minutes per trip, and you'd have a much higher chance of coming out to Chaos with all your resources that you're really looking at. Like, we barely had any heal potions left over. You probably have like 30. Everywhere, Blair, thank you very much for resubscribing back for 16 months. I hope you enjoy the fantasy Final Fantasy tonight. And let's hope that Dan this time remembers to go to the left, to go to the right. We're going back in time. Making certain there's no zombies in the way, because those things can be the worst. Alright, there we go. Try number 3. We've done better in the first 2 tries than I expected. I was expecting a couple of tries just to get down to a Kraken fight. So we're 2 for 2 on Kraken, which definitely is not going to continue. There will come a time for which the noodly arms were as kind as they were these first 2 goes around. Also, we have to undo our flame splits, so we can do one again. As it is possible that Phantom made us to be a bad man, but possibly even the worst man. Feels very similar to the amount of damage we took pre-Phantom here. Previous time had a bit of a bad roll on the Lich. Here we go. We're going to see spells from the Phantom. Physical attacks are generally bad news. Like that. And I don't even go for the defense sword strats because the Phantom's just got a very high critical hit rate. But that works for me. onto the backside. And let's keep going down. I mean, realistically, other than the purple orbs, specifically the ones at the bottom, the only other fights I think that are really impactful, besides just doing general bits of damage here and there, is probably stuff like the Germedusas on the earth floor, because those can be really annoying with the paralysis touch. And really, that's about it. I guess the sorcerers, in theory, can be a problem. They've been very nice so far, so I'm going to keep doing the sorcerer strat. Level 50, sorcerers are a very different experience than when you are your most speedruns at level 18. But that is definitely something that you should not attempt. Keep getting the camps. One day I'll remember the Phantom on the correct trip. Maybe not today, but someday. Getting a glance at least. On to Lich number 3. So far it's been 181 and 368 on the nukes. I like the first one better than the second. Oh, that was such a good nucleus Lich setup. 230 though is on the good side. 230 is a critical nuke, but one of the weaker ones. Anytime that you see it under 200, that means that we got resistance on nuke, so we did not get crit. But if it does crit, the range from 200 to 400 is quite vast. And for some reason, it's always like 390 on Dan. Like every single time. Fair fires, which is like worms, but more of a practice round. I keep forgetting the defense sort of moves. The next time Dan dies, which, let's be honest, is probably going to be next time. Try and remember to move the defense sword up to the front, and then save again. It'll save so many problems. Luckily versus the flyer, it's less of a problem than versus the purple worms were. This time. Alright, so I got Carry, Crack, and Tiamat. We got the fire elemental here. We've got the purple worm. So that still is 2 more fast for chaos, which hopefully the slow to us doesn't even work, but we would have it in reserve. And hopefully chaos does not double slow to us, because that would be so close to clutching out a fight, but you're probably not even making it to the nuke. Let's be honest. If Chaos does nuke, you are in Pain Town for sure. Alright, so far Trip has been much better this time around. But how about Carry? Yeah, Carry's not a good start. Just so critical to have that defense sword off before you get meleeed the first time. Let's go with 2. We know 3 is required, but 2 is very close to maxed out. Dan does not get rubbed through the ribbon. Rub 1 Carry, Bane on Tiamat, crack on Chaos. There's a couple of things that could just instantly kill you. Or instead, you could very slowly kill Carrie. Kraken number 3. Kraken 1 was definitely the best. Kraken 2 was not bad. And by not bad, I mean like we were sweating really hard. Sometimes for Kraken, that is about as good as you can expect. Speaking of Kraken, let's get to it. Third Kraken's probably always the worst. Definitely terrible start. If we get meleeed again, we are out of it. We need so many rounds in a row to go well. At this point, odds are pretty bad for it. Good dodge there. Can we get some swings in? We might be able to survive 1 crit, unless he does a 2 again. So let's see what the numbers look like. This 130? We might have seen this last time. 131. I think this is the same pattern we had last time, but we might be doing it with 1 less hit, so I don't know if it's going to work out. But I'm hopeful. I'm hoping real hard. And I am moving on to Teammat. Alright, that is Kraken done again. Heal potion total is really good. Question is, are the sorcerers really good? This is like a quarter of the floor that we get, so I think it is worth the sorcerer trip. I think if you don't do these, you probably get very close to sorcerers on the way to chaos at the end. I would much rather have them right there than after you get the purple worms done. Like every purple worm is such a incredible adventure. We don't need to make it even more complicated. All right, 3, that's good. I'll take a dodge with no defense sword up. Feels like a good first round with 88 damage. Yeah, second round 115 is passable. Nice thing is that you're looking at significantly fewer purple worm hits. So this is essentially 4 fewer attacks that you have to stand through. But just because it's 4 fewer does not mean it's gonna be safe. But it is gonna be done. 2 Masmunes. Will this one last longer than the first? In some ways, I think Tiamat is significantly less scary than Kraken because the melee attacks are not as immediately threatening. But Tiamat's got other ways of being mean. Especially that Bane opener. That one can be just the end of it really fast. It does not need to put the mass speed on. It would only slow him down. We have collected it for moral support. Alright, now we need to put the mass speed on. And now we need to fight Tiamat. That campaign, good? Good start. That is important step number 1. Triple defense sword, so melee attack's less scary. The skills, though, still are going to add up. So if Tiamat sneaks a critical through, it can get close, but I think once you're into this part of it, it's a lot less scary. That is one more battle between here and Chaos. That's a lot of zombie Ds and whiz vamps. Not fireproof. That spell is bugged like 6 different ways. Okay. Let's steal ourselves. We just need Chaos to not destroy us in the first 3 rounds. After that, we might have a chance. Here we go. Defense sword up early, good. Yeah, 84 is not amazing, but it's better than getting hit for like 300. Can't use a spell. Dan does not follow the crack. 2 skills in, so he's got his big skills for damage. But he's got 3 spells to cure 4. Let's see if we can get him looped. That would be amazing. 440 for our start. And spell number 2 here. 740. Oh, the slow 2 is off. Okay, so we got to refast. And he probably gets cure 4 here. And now we're back into hoping that we loop him. 295 right now is not a lot of HP. But hopefully he just keeps doing those melees. All right, 392. Want to see another 392 after a miss? Dan, 392. That's different. All right, 392 or 361. No, he's using a spell, so this is new. We're at 1250 damage. We're at 1500. That's really bad. 1800 damage. Dan's at 42 health. And Dan has defeated Chaos in 8 hours, 14 minutes, and 45 seconds all by himself.